Welcome back to the second hour of Biz Asia America. I'm Elaine Reyes. We want to recap our breaking news out of Venezuela that President Hugo Chavez has died at the age of 58. The president has been suffering from cancer. He was recently reelected to a fourth term. That was back in October and was set to take office on January 10th for a six-year term. We have live team coverage across the Americas from Rio de Janeiro to Havana and the United States. We want to start with correspondent Stephen Gibbs, who joins us now from Rio de Janeiro. And Stephen, you were just there in Caracas and recently arrived back in Rio de Janeiro. Just want to get your thoughts.
Well, in many ways, this is the news that so many people in Venezuela were beginning to expect. Hugo Chavez arrived back in Caracas from his treatment in Cuba 2 weeks ago, but nothing was heard from him. And people, when he arrived in the middle of the night, and there was no pictures or anything like that. There were initially celebrations from his supporters, but as the days and weeks went on, everyone really realized that something was seriously wrong, despite the government's assurances that he was still leading the country and even presiding over government meetings. So this afternoon we hear that certainly one of this region's and arguably the world's most controversial leaders is no more. And here is an opportunity to look back at his life.
Love him or hate him, Hugo Chavez stamped his mark on this oil-rich country for much of the last 2 decades. Outspoken critic of the United States, self-proclaimed saviour of the poor. His rule drew adoration from his supporters and passionate opposition from his detractors. It was in the 1990s that the former paratrooper first came to the attention of Venezuelans. Leader of an unsuccessful coup in 1992, he transformed himself into a formidable politician.
Una sola gota de petróleo.
His revolutionary rhetoric and promises of profound economic and social reforms united the left behind him and gave him a power base from Venezuela's poor. He was inaugurated president in 1999 with a substantial majority. Soon he set about constitutional reform, extending presidential terms and guaranteeing representative power to Venezuela's indigenous people. He even renamed the country the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela after his hero, 19th century independence leader Simón Bolívar. Abroad, Chavez saw himself as a leader of a new Latin America, united in common purpose and in various degrees of opposition to the US. His closest alliance was with Cuba's Fidel Castro, whom he often described as a father figure. In a deal organized by the two men, Venezuela sent Cuba almost all the oil the country required. In return, Cuba sent Venezuela much-needed doctors. The arrangement helped secure Hugo Chavez's popularity amongst his country's poorest people and a second term of office. But not everyone has been happy under the president's rule. Venezuela's opposition saw President Chavez's constitutional reforms as increasingly autocratic. In 2002, violent clashes broke out in Caracas. During this turbulent period, a brief, unsuccessful coup was attempted against the president. He emerged only more determined and more radical. President Chavez always saw himself as an informal people's president. Every Sunday he would host a program called Allo Presidente. Featuring phone-ins and ad-lib speeches, it would sometimes run for hours. As his rule approached its third term in office, his criticism of the US administration became his trademark.
Ayer estuvo el diablo aquí, este mismo lugar huele a azufre todavía.
Here at the United Nations, he famously claimed he could smell sulfur. The devil, he said, in the form of President George W. Bush, had been at the podium before him. Relations with the Obama administration were only slightly more cordial. The two presidents met just once, here at an America's summit. The US continued to view the leader of oil-rich Venezuela as a threat to the stability of the region. Hugo Chavez hoped to rule for at least another decade. In October 2012, he was re-elected for a fourth term with a reduced but still substantial majority, defeating Enrique Capriles, a young candidate who'd united the long-divided Venezuelan opposition. Ultimately, it was cancer, not his political enemies, which defeated him. In December, he announced that the illness had returned and that he would require further surgery. Leaving for Cuba that last time, he seemed almost as confident as ever. "I'll be back," he said. So how will he be judged? This firebrand leader made a substantial difference to the lives of millions of Venezuelans through his social projects in the country's poorest areas. But he leaves the country with plenty of enduring problems. A high murder rate, soaring inflation, and in what may yet prove the greatest challenge to his successor, a deeply divided population.
And in the next few hours and days, you can expect people to be talking about an end of an era in Venezuela. But interestingly, the government will be trying not to use that expression. They believe that what Hugo Chavez started is unstoppable, but there seems to be little question that it won't be quite the same without him.
All right, Stephen Gibbs reporting live from Rio de Janeiro. Thank you.